Hello, I'm author Denise Turney, and you are watching the Chisto, CHISTELL.com YouTube channel. And I certainly hope you'll visit me online. So today I'm going to do a reading from my book, Love Pour Over Me. And this is one of my longer books. It's a little over 360 pages. But I'm going to be starting on page 149. Let's see. Scott feels the same way. About what? About you two being together so much, Brenda chuckled. This is Brenda and her sister, Virginia, and Brenda's visiting. She's going to college in Pennsylvania, and that's where she meets Raymond. And they really, really, really do belong together. I don't want to get the story away, but Virginia's sister, they're very different. Brenda's more like natural, earthy. Her sister she likes fine, the fine clothes, the brand items. So in that way they're different, but they do love each other. So Scott, here we go, page 159. Scott feels the same way about what? About you two being together so much, Brenda chuckled. I wasn't talking about Michael. He's Scott's brother. I know Scott ain't gonna leave his side. Yes, Scott feels the same way, Virginia answered convincingly. Absolutely. How do you know? Did he tell you? Yes, and he shows it. It's not so much what a man says, it's what a man does. A man can say anything. It doesn't it does not mean you believe it. She paused. I love that man more than I thought I would ever love anyone. The more Scott and I get to know each other, the deeper we want to go. Brenda turned away from Virginia. Tears pooled in her eyes. Not once had she spoken it during her visit, but deep down she wanted what Virginia had with Scott. She wanted to be loved by a man. It was a yet unlived experience for her, and because of that, she found it hard to believe Virginia when she talked about the joys of Scott and her love. So far in her life, when it came to men, all Brenda had was time. 3 years with Byron, and the more Byron got to know her, the less he wanted to be with her. She hoped it would be different with Raymond, but after talking with Virginia the last 3 days, she was beginning to have doubts. She didn't want to get her hopes up. She didn't want to get hurt. A Ford Expedition sped by. Orange and white Lady Ball basketball stickers clung to the truck's rear bumper. Brenda looked at the truck, then she turned away from the window and faced her sister. Scott seems cool, but then you don't roll with guys you don't know how to who don't know how to love you. She glanced out the window again. The truck was long gone down the road. It looked more like a dot than a truck now. I like that, she said. I need to be more like that. They drove over bumps in the road. The car shook and static filled the radio. Virginia turned the volume up and scanned the dial. Brick's hit song Daz filled the car. This is my jam, Virginia smiled. Those brothers play with heart, Brenda declared. It takes heart to play good live band music. You can't just press buttons on a machine. You got to put your heart into every note. What do you know about making music? Virginia teased while she sped down our core highway toward McGee Tyson Airport. And speaking of heart, she added, why don't you follow your heart this time? See where things go with whoever you decide to get with. She twisted her mouth as if she'd swallowed a bad lemon. Even if it turns out to be this man, Raymond. Suddenly, and as if she was in a car alone, a memory nipped at Brenda's thoughts, and she smiled. Her voice was wispy, her mind far away. At the stadium, the first time I spoke to Raymond, we were at a football game. Virginia shot her a quick glance. Maybe it's time you dated more. Give Byron some space and do not get stuck on this man Raymond. She glanced into the rearview mirror. If you date more, you will know for sure if you want to be with Byron or Raymond or whoever. But if you only date one or two men, you might not ever be sure that you are with the man you want to be with. Brenda gave a slow nod, sloppily with the back of her hand, and after she was certain that Virginia wasn't looking at her, she wiped tears away from her face. They pulled into the airport's short-term parking lot, the one right across the street from the main terminal. A string of taxis lined 3 rows deep honked their horns and let out chatty passengers, making the area loud with noise. It took Virginia and Brenda a long time to part. They embraced, patted each other's backs, and rocked inside one another's arms. Just before they let each other go, Virginia kissed Brenda's face and squeezed her shoulders tightly. I love you, she avowed. With her free hand, she clipped a pension around Brenda's neck. I love you too, Brenda said. A second later, she leaned back on the car seat and gasped. Grandma's pendant, she murmured while she fingered the large pearl. Grandma gave this to you as a keepsake. As slowly as the homemade molasses Virginia gave her 2 days ago had poured into the empty canning jar, she looked up and met Virginia's glance. I want you to have it, Virginia told her. She kissed Brenda's forehead. It will bring you good luck. Keep it close to your heart. I love you, Brenda called out again after she climbed out of the car and walked toward the terminal. Twice she looked back at Virginia and Wade. The bitterness in Virginia's conversation the day she first arrived in town had been forgiven. Uncertainty hung in the air, and because it did, Brenda wanted to hold on to what was familiar to her. She couldn't explain it with each forward step she took. She had no evidence for it, but she felt certain that when she saw her sister again, she would be deeply changed forever.